So, Final Fantasy XV took 10 years to make. You might be thinking, but Pinky, you're so smart and sexy and pretty, and there's a completely different game in the title. Well, I'm getting there. It was a game where you go on a road trip with your crew of boys. You can tell one of your boys to drive your car, and you will drive there in real time. By the way, the landmass is fucking huge, and again, you go there in real time. I remember one time when I was younger, it literally took me 10 minutes for Ignis to drive me across the continent, so I just sat in my chair, scrolling Twitter. You know, normal things to do when you're playing a video game. Also, there are no women in the party as well, or at least the main party. The 4 boys. There are guest women, but they don't stay long. The heroine and Noctis's fiancé, Lunafreya Nox Flore, is kind of sexy lamp-coded. I'm being rude. She moves around a lot and you go to her. She's a very important and central figure to the world as its oracle. A woman who can talk with the gods, who are always conventionally attractive women, by the way. And her wedding dress was designed by real-life designer Vivienne Westwood. And then when you finally get to meet her in person, she dies. Unless, of course, you read the novel. She's also in the prequel movie. I'm not going to hit the Vine Boom button again. She's also in the prequel movie for the games, voiced by a Game of Thrones lady. And she plays a bit more of an active role there. For some reason, they hired some celebrities to act for the film and then didn't carry them over for the game. I find that weird. Whatever. As an aside, I find it really funny that the main character in the movie is voiced by Aaron Paul, the guy from Breaking Bad. You know, the one that's not Walter White. And said main character is also motion captured by Astarion's voice actor, Neil Newbon. Wild. The other female character you see on the regular, more than the game's heroine even, is Cindy, the party's car mechanic. Final Fantasy games always have a character called Sid, and in fact in Japanese she's even called Sydney instead of Cindy, but it was a bit on the nose for the English language audience. The guy who's actually called Sid in the game is Cindy's grandfather. I just remember when Chip Cheesen played the demo for 15 and one of the co-commentators said something like, car engines are very spicy and contain, like, sulfuric acid. You don't want exposed skin around those. One of the party members, Prompto, also has a crush on her, and he's blatantly obvious about it, and she's obviously not interested. I kind of headcanon her as Eroace out of, like, spite. The other female character is Aranea Highwind. I have a crush on her. That's all. Now you might ask, how is this relevant to Final Fantasy Versus XIII? I'm about to answer that, you adorable fool. There's even more backstory and preamble to this sorry tale. Final Fantasy XIII is a trilogy of games belonging to another sub-series of the overall Final Fantasy series called Fabula Nova Crystallis Final Fantasy, which has a whole, like, lore as its base. Lots of gods killing other gods. Lots of crystals, too. Final Fantasy XIII even had people turn into crystals if they did their job right. God, if that happened in real life, no one would be fucking alive, because everyone who did a good job millions of years in the past would be like crystals, and they wouldn't have had babies. I'm having normal thoughts whilst recording this. So, I could send you to the video of the lore. I could show you the clips myself. That'd be the normal thing, wouldn't it? Since when have I been normal?
Well, it's a lovely day in the land of living. What do you have there, son? A knife! Ah!
I have a sword inside my tummy. Ah!
Well, I've murdered my mum, but I want to destroy her. But if I fucking leave, I'd have to stop ruling over this place, and I don't want to stop that. I guess I'll have some children. Well, I've had children through the normal method. Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. You look like my mum. Stop that. Right. You. Right. I need you to go look for the door to me mum's house. It's definitely not for murder.
Okay.
And you, I'm gonna go take a nap. Make sure no one murders me.
Okay.
Well, my name's Etro, and my dad gave me nothing to do. I love my dad. He doesn't love me. And he's fucked off to take a nap. Guess I'll die.
I have a sword in me as well.
My sister's dead. Our sister's dead. Took a bit of her blood. You know, normal brother things. And I'm gonna use her blood for nefarious purposes. Oh god. Well, brother, I've made humanity from my sister's blood. Swag.
Just normal people things. Normal things that normal people do. She says, making a video about, deities. Fantasy deities.
Well, I guess I'm dead. Is that my fucking grandma? I'm your fucking grandma! Oh my god! I'm dying! Oh my god!
Protect the delicate balance of the universe, else if the balance is askew, the whole world will collapse.
What? I'm dead again. What? What the shit? Time passes. Oh, well, my brother's made humans. That's pretty nice. I guess I'll give them a present. Humanity can have a little bit of chaos as a treat. Well, bro, I guess we've been here a while. I've been making the place, you've been protecting it. Aye? Well, bro, I guess we've been here a while now. Been making the place, you've been protecting it. Aye. Our dad's still asleep. Aye. He won't notice if we fuck off for a cheeky Nando's, right? Aye. And so they fucked off for a cheeky Nando's. They fucked off for cheeky Nando's. If we worship them, maybe we can fuck off for a cheeky Nando's. Oh yeah, I guess Etro is the goddess of death now. Also, the big guy's still taking a nap, I guess. And this guy's still fucking asleep.
I'd like to thank my friend Eden for interpreting the lore for me. I literally just sent her the article and she made it somewhat less confusing for me. Somewhat. So, people thought of Final Fantasy XIII as a series of fights through corridors. I can't remember how far I actually got into the game and kind of fizzled out on it after a while. Also, for some reason, I think I tried to play 13-2 first. Because, you know, that'll make the story less confusing. I also remember Lightning Returns at Final Fantasy XIII as well, where you have like a time limit and go around completing quests. Not unlike Majora's Mask, I suppose? I remember that you played dress up with Lightning and that her design is a bit more fan servicey. There was a bit of a to-do about her cup size going up. And also they failed to give Lightning pants. I mean, not that she wore pants in the first game, because she wore like a mini skirt, sort of a pencil skirt type deal. It wasn't like it didn't like flow out and show off her underwears. But also they put her in a suit in Lightning Returns, and it's not like I'm into women in suits or butler suits or clothes. I like clothes. You're witnessing a gay malfunction. Unfortunately, they also put Lightning in dumb swimsuits that I hate, particularly this garish pink number. Her head doesn't look like it goes on that body. She doesn't look real. See, Lightning in the first game was like a cold, cool professional, so it's kind of weird when you can dress her up in these colourful bikinis where you couldn't before. I'm of the opinion that it impacts the strength of her character. It's okay if you disagree with me. while it's also true that Snow gets to show some skin as well, it's less for fan service in the third game at least, and more for he's got fun crystals growing out of him. I'm not over the fact that her head just looks so big and her body is so tiny. Why is she so out of proportion? Why is her head so big? Anyway, the Fabula Nova Crystallis series was going to be its own thing, with a shared mythos and multiple series. There were actually 2 series, the Lightning Saga, and then there was Final Fantasy Type 0 and Final Fantasy Agito, probably, which was a smartphone spin-off to Type 0 that was never localized. Final Fantasy Versus XIII was planned to be a part of the overall series, but not part of any of the other 2 mini-series within the mini-series. You can kind of see traces of this story, this world building in the full version of 15, but it was going to be a bit different that we know of. For one thing, the game was going to begin with an invasion during a treaty signing party between Lucius and Tenebrae, which does actually happen in Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, and it gets given a little mention during the game. Like, it's this vastly important event. It's like the inciting event, pretty much. And you don't actually see it in the game. And that kind of bothers me, come to think of it. Whatever. Noctis meets Stella at this party while she looks at a painting of the goddess Etro, and they comment on how they can both see lights, which means that they both had near-death experiences in the past that led them to gain powers from Etro. And they seem to hit it off. However, the very same trailer also depicts them about to engage in a sword fight as well. And yet, somehow, this implication of a budding situationship between Noctis and Stella is much more conversation than we got from Noctis and Lunafreya, in the game at least. Remember, I'm talking about the game, not the novel, or the movie, or any of the side materials that you have to read in order to get the full story. I'm, like, sure they're super happy to get married, but also, like, the only communications they've had for 10 years is through written letters sent via magical dogs. As you can probably tell, Stella is one of my big sticking points with this whole fiasco. I genuinely don't hate Luna, but I'm more mad that she and Stella could have been more. The ending retcon in the novel, Dawn of the Future, feels a lot like a response to the backlash against the Stella versus Luna debate, and I should have just given her more character in the first place. I mean, before Final Fantasy Versus XIII became Final Fantasy 15, they changed directors from Tetsuya Nomura, the guy who regularly does Final Fantasies, and switched to Hajime Tabata, who does other Final Fantasy games and is less famous than Nomura. And Nomura did the designs for the main party. Well, aside, he designed their heads and their hairstyles. But their clothing was actually designed by a fashion brand called Rouen. I went off on a tangent. On another note, from what little can be gleaned from the trailers and hearsay from the wiki for Versus 13 that I've been getting a lot of my info from, the royal family of Lucius would have been more akin to a crime family, and the relationship between Noctis and his bros would have been like a boss and his subordinates, but in like a Yakuza way, rather than like a prince and knights / friends. I kind of have to wonder how the Mafia also being royalty would have affected the story. And then in the full game of 15, it's kind of just like traditional lineage-based royalty. and it's not like crimes. But then also, according to a quote on the Versus 13 wiki page, there's a quote from Roberta Ferrari, the character designer who made Cindy, Aranea, Arden, Izunia, and many more characters. The story kept changing every 3 months, so like, who knows? Who knows? On another tangent,
I made a spreadsheet again, woo.
you'll forgive me, right? Because I'm cute. So I listed every character in all the 3D Final Fantasy games from Final Fantasy VII onwards, mostly because I guess these are the ones with the quote-unquote modern formula. I didn't count 11 and 14 because they're MMORPGs and don't have the traditional game structure. I listed what games they're from, their name, their gender, and what their role is. Then I typed a bunch of formulas and counted the total amount of males, females, the total amount of characters, the total amount of each role, the total party members per game, the amount of female party members in each game, ditto for males, and then I calculated the male to female ratio. It's entirely possible that I cheated a little bit since I counted Final Fantasy X and its sequel, and then Final Fantasy XIII and its sequels as like single entities, which led the Final Fantasy XIII games to have the most equal gender split and a 1-to-1 ratio. Then 15, the game that I'm complaining about the genders in, has 2 female party members who are only temporary. Unless, of course, you do a glitch, then you can get RNA for longer, but that wasn't intentional. So, from the data I compiled myself, we can conclude, Final Fantasy is a freaking sausage fest. While I can get the info for the amount of characters of each represented gender, I can't adequately say how well the women are treated in each game. Mostly because I haven't actually played all of them myself. I was definitely too young to play 7 during its original release in 1997, and I generally preferred Tales games when I was old enough for these games. And then, after I put all of that info together, I decided to compile the remaining main series Final Fantasy games into the list as well, to see how that would affect the numbers. The original game and the original non-DS version of Final Fantasy III don't actually have like proper characters in the same sense as the other games. They're just 4 people whose name and class you can decide. And then I wasn't quite sure what to do for their gender, so I just sort of put unknown there. Or you, I guess. Did I put a you there? You know what they say, if you assume, I'm a bitch. Also, I included the after years with Final Fantasy IV's characters, so there are now a butt-fuck ton of characters in Final Fantasy IV. So, it's come out to a whopping 97 men, 47 women, and 8 unknown in all of the Final Fantasy games by my count. Shit's complex. There's probably a load more to it as well. That said, if you want to tell me about your experience with the Final Fantasy series, feel free to comment. Or don't. I'm not your dad. So back on topic. The gameplay actually looks largely similar. It's still an action RPG. In the gameplay trailer I found, there was a command menu to one side and silly little windows where you can see your party's silly little faces in real time. In the final game, you didn't get a menu until you pressed the right button to bring up the quick item menu, or you just straight up went into the pause menu. The old gameplay trailers remind me a bit of Kingdom Hearts, actually. One big thing that wasn't in the vanilla version of the game is that in the trailer you could play as the other party members and freely switch between them, instead of only being able to choose Noctis, unless you buy the DLC. You could also only have 3 characters on the field at once, and Corleonis was going to be a full party member instead of a guest, which I'm partly kind of mad about, because...
Daddy. Big self energy.
That's about all I can really say about the gameplay. There was really not a lot of footage to go off. The gameplay trailer I found looks like a a freaking PS2 game. I mean, it was in the works in the 2000s, so I suppose that kind of tracks, really. I'd also like to add that all of these complaints that I'm having are coming from someone who's played through 15 at least once, and I have started another playthrough. I liked it. I didn't love it. I was very glad it didn't just have stoic men being stoic and grumpy, but it was an anime twink and his bros, and they were all different enough to keep my interest. I'm glad they just didn't all get on like a house on fire. I actually played the vanilla edition before the royal edition was even a spark in the public conscience. Cracks my elbow. And it had I encountered a game-breaking bug past the point of no return towards the end of the game, where Noctis was alone, and there were these creepy things you had to avoid, but for some reason Noct was invincible, and it completely ruined the dramatic tension of being broless and alone. It's a damn shame I don't have any footage of this, because this was years and years ago and on a completely different PS4 than the one I have. But my sister and I had a good laugh about it at the time. I've compiled all the references and things that were kept between the versions into a handy little list of 4. So, number 1. The treaty signing party from the trailer was kept and repurposed for the movie. Instead of Stella and Noctis meeting, it's Nyx, Ulrich, and Luna Freya instead. For some reason, I also put you get to see King Regis, Noctis' dad, who is played by Sean Bean in the movie, die standing up. Pretty swag, actually. That's a pretty swag way to die. The metropolis that you begin the game in, Insomnia, seems to be similar. 3. Apparently in the Spanish version, the star pendant is named Stella's pendant, and the description refers to a heroine who was ostracized. Clearly the Spanish translators were throwing shades, as the kids say these days. Do the children say that? Am I giving away my age again? The kingly raiment that you receive at the end of the game, without the cape and leg brace, is actually the suit Noctis wears in the story trailer for Versus XIII as well. That's it, that's my list. So there were some dummied out files left over from Versus XIII in the game. It's literally only 2 things though, that we know of. It has Noctis' placeholder outfit from the trailers, and Regis' suit with a terrifying head. Wait a minute. Is that fucking Dr. Ratio from Honkai Star Rail? Last but not least, Verum Rex. I've added another name to the pile. This is the last one, I promise. Verum Rex is a fictional game within Kingdom Hearts 3. It follows a guy called Yozora, his friends Magia and Aegis, and a girl who may or may not be an NPC called Nameless Star. It's complicated. Kingdom Hearts is complicated. No one understands Kingdom Hearts. If they say they do, they're lying and a charlatan. I think I still have the box set of the Kingdom Hearts 1 manga, and I tried to play it on the PS2 when I was little, but the pre-owned copy we bought was broken, so we had to return it. Then I bought the final mix versions for the PS3, and I hated playing it. I'm sorry. I think that original flavor Kingdom Hearts needs to get its hooks on you when you're like, child. Also, Yozora is voiced by Dylan Sprouse, twin brother of freelance Tumblr social scientist Cole Sprouse. Well, that's a wild bit of trivia to remember. I also don't understand Verum Rex. Despite this, I can see some parallels between Versus XIII and this fake game that's only in Kingdom Hearts 3. So, Yozora means night sky. Noctis is derived from Nox, or night, in Latin. Noctis' surname, Kylum, is Latin for sky. So, also, Yozora looks like Noctis with heterophobia of the eyes. There's an NPC who I think is implied to be the lady in the fake game trailer, who is called Nameless Star. Stella is Latin for star. Also, there's a big beefy glasses man who looks like Ignis and Gladiolus did in Empreg. Also, I've seen that Verum Rex was apparently going to be a real thing, but I'm not sure how true that is. It's probably just Nomura referencing something he wanted to do that he couldn't actually do. Final Fantasy XV took a decade to make. It went through 2 directors, who knows how many story changes, lots of character changes, and then when it came out, it still felt a bit unfinished in some ways. A fair few of the characters are underutilized, not just Luna Freya. They then made a whole new edition/DLC expansion pack and DLC stories with the boys and Arden for some reason. I guess I just sort of miss when games were like one and done. You know? Also, if people think I hate these games, I don't. I just want more cool women in them. And for these women to be their own characters in the first place and not a plot device. I think that was most of my issue with Luna Freya. It's hard to find out how many people have seen or read the side materials, but over 10 million copies of the game was sold according to Google. It's hard to know how many people bought the DLC, bought the Vanilla Edition, bought the Royal Edition, how many people have played it since its initial release. We don't know how many people know how strong Luna is, how she can help fix motorbikes, how she's actually quite handy with a polearm, how she's never been able to make choices for herself from her wardrobe to her marriage to her free time. I only know that because I read the novels. Or the novel. There's only one. I misspoke. Going purely from the game, she's an end goal for the boys to reach, and then stuffed in the fridge when you finally do meet her. I only know of Stella because I vaguely remember reading about her whilst reading the fandom wiki a few years ago. It's impossible to know how she would have turned out, but I was super compelled by the drips we got of story we got from the trailer. I guess the whole premise of this video is I just want better for the Nox Fleuret women. Oh, I got emotional. Anyway, if you saw me get emotional about women in this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Poke it with your finger. Or don't if you don't have a touch screen. I'm not your dad. And, thank you for watching, and goodbye and good night. And I will give you all a little kiss on the forehead for getting to the end. Mwah! And I'll bounce my boobs for you.